Alrighty, my friends. So today we're going to be talking about soul purpose and your life purpose. Okay, they're really one and the same, and you might be thinking, what's he talking about? Well, I want to expand on this idea of how is it that you can find your life purpose and what is it, and of course this is the age-old question, right? Everyone's always trying to figure out what is it? Is it a particular major? Am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be doing that? Well, earlier today, I went to a hypnotist. Okay, she's a hypnotherapist. I'd gone to her a few times. She's wonderful. She's based out of here in Cincinnati. And so what we did is we accessed the Akashic records, they're called. So there's a library of the souls, right? The soul records of the past, present, and future. And if you go to this place in the spiritual world, you can actually find what your soul's plan is. All right, it's one of the ways. And again, I'm not trying to step on anyone's religious beliefs or anything like that, and I'd never visited the Akashic Records. So today I found out, and I had kind of suspected this when I talked to my spirit guides through with her help last year, and the idea of connection, okay, and love. I already knew that part, but the one that came through today was healing. And so then I realized, wow, okay, so what we found is that it's connection and healing in a loving and joyful manner. So I realized, wow, and it changed. There was a click. There was an internal shift that started. There was a vibration going on inside. So as I was in the trance, and then you're fully conscious. Then I woke up and I had a sense of clarity, a profound inner peace, and I had already been suspecting things. And then I looked at the mental path of my life and I said, oh wow, so you mean all of the situations I've had in my life have prepared me for this. And so what I'm trying to tell you is, maybe in your experiences, have you ever had situations where you're wondering how it all adds up? Where am I going, right? Or you change your major. If you were like me in college, I changed my major 3 times. I'm probably sure I drove my guidance counselor crazy. Well, I kept getting different ones anyway. Or or you take those career tests and then you say, well, this career test says that I'm going to do this. I mean, a strong Campbell interest inventory is a real good one. The strong Campbell interest inventory, and then also the Myers-Briggs is a real good one. But again, these are just ideas of what, based on who you are, what might be good for you. But at your soul level, there's an idea that you constantly expand, right? You may have heard this, that if you accept, first of all, that you have an immortal soul, and there could be plenty of information I could give you on this, that you actually are eternal. You really do have a part of you that lives on. I mean, it's unbelievable, okay? So, what's interesting about this is that all I'm asking is, if you stop looking at your life in terms of a role, in terms of one role, that, oh, when I'm this, then my whole life is going to be figured out. Then what happens is you free yourself up to try different things with the underlying core spiritual value or values that you're playing out in this lifetime. And this is, I want to share this. I had a roommate when I lived in Spain, one of the times I lived in Spain. And I was staying in this host family, and with this host family, and this guy was a bullfighter. They called him a novero. And he showed, I remember one night we're having dinner, and he put in this video, the VHS. And in this VHS player, we saw this guy getting trampled by like a baby bull. I said, "You got to be kidding me!" And then he was brutalized, like beat up real bad, like by that bull. And he looked at us and smiled, and I looked at him like he was on drugs. And his point was, he said in Spanish basically that he was going to begin again. That he said that the next time it's going to be different. It doesn't matter if he lived or died. It was that he was a bullfighter. He locked his purpose behind being a bullfighter. Am I making sense? So the challenge is, before bullfighting, if there were no bullfighting, what would he have done? I mean, there isn't always a role that you can lock yourself into. So Bill Gates, 100 years ago, what would have Bill Gates done, right? He would have done something, but it wouldn't have been computers. There were the time and space to even have Bill Gates right now at this moment in history, or Steve Jobs or somebody like that. Are you with me? Martha Stewart or whoever we want to say. it's interesting because what it's like, you come in at exactly the right time with a mission to do exactly something or a variety of things. Okay, and this is baby Xena, by the way. Look how beautiful she is. All right, so the point is, if you start to realize, oh, okay, there's not a single role I have to lock myself into, there's a role I can choose to at a different time, then that's great. I mean, if you look at people, I've talked to people that were not parents, they became parents, their whole focus changed. Their whole focus, their whole life started changing. There was a guy I knew from the last college I taught at, he actually had his twins. And his whole thinking is around the twins now. Sometimes people have this idea of going up the proverbial career ladder of more success, from a career angle. But then different parts of their life are seeking more attention. And that's part of their soul expression, right? So this is very important because I think we put a lot of stress, today's youngsters in college especially do this, and I know I did. What they do is they get you from high school and then you go into college and then you assume that, oh, I need to think my way into my purpose. Well, you haven't had certain experiences to get kicked around yet sometimes to know that, oh, this is the path I need to be going on, or anything like this. And sometimes, so I have older students that will come back, and then I'll have, ones that are fresh out of high school. They're really, they know, okay, this is what I want to do, and there's no doubt, and so they have that clarity. But what I've learned is that even in the mistakes you've had, those mistakes are setting you up for your life purpose. So even when you think that you're off course, you're on course. Isn't that interesting? You really, at a soul level, you're on course. At a physical level, personality level, it might not even make sense. So this is really, really important because when you start looking at that major that you had for a year and then you changed your major, like me, I've changed 3 times. I mean, I sometimes say, wow, I think I made so many mistakes and my life was a mistake, all these things. But then I'm saying that in partial jest because everything gets you to where you're going, right? I mean, you're moving somewhere. So it's kind of like, oh, so no matter what's going on in your life, there's some lesson in it that you can find that gets you to some other place where you're going to ask another question. And that's part of your soul's unfolding. And one of the challenges with the law of attraction, all right, is that there's this idea that everything's done at a mental level, okay? So, and I think there are even follow-up programs to the law of attraction. I'm not knocking the law of attraction at all. But if we say to ourselves that your role, our role is this, and you can decide your role, sure, you can create your role, but your soul is saying something else. You'll know because there'll be a restlessness, and you'll feel like something's off. Your soul is trying to feed where your mind is not yet. Okay? So I'll say it again. Your soul is trying to feed where your mind is not yet. So it's surrendering your mental to that spiritual. And so what happens is then that comes from, if you let your spirit guide you, then what happens is your mental clarity comes from that spiritual base. Okay? And then all of a sudden the questions drop, a lot of the questions drop away. Or the questions that you start getting are following from that spiritual kind of unfolding. So what do I mean by that? If you start recognizing, well, there have been themes in my life, I've gone through certain things, and now you're, like I've had students, for example, that have had, they've used drugs before, and some of them will go for drug rehabilitation, okay? And so they're going to be drug rehabilitation counselors. If you look at it from a spiritual perspective, all right, then what you realize is they needed to go through what they needed to go through in order to help people. But the law of attraction, if you were only to look at it from the standpoint of drug abuse and stopping drug abuse, then you would be thinking, well, they created it on themselves, there's nothing more they can do with it except to stop it, and now they're not using drugs. But you're missing the whole piece. You're missing the whole piece that you went through what you went through in order to learn a lesson and teach others. And so they have more credibility in it because they've gone through that. Am I making any sense? So I think that in the sense that you have a life purpose, then you can unfold and realize it. And the expressions, I realize it's never going to be one thing all the time at one point, one fixed point in time and space, that this is it forever. And this is just the choice you're making in this life about what you want to do or not do with your life. Okay, this is it. It's a test. Okay, maybe in this life you're going to do this. In another life you're going to do another thing. And what I'm going to do in another video is I'm going to share with you past life ways to recognize some of the things you might have done in a past life, some of the roles you had, how to recognize certain patterns from a past life. We'll go into that. But right now in this one, I'm talking about in this life and your life purpose. Now, the question then becomes, how do you figure out, how do you get a clue of what might interest you or what you would be doing with your time as far as what to spend your energy on? Well, this is a good question. One of the things I've learned is it doesn't take much effort in terms of you would be doing it anyway for free. This is very important. So I often tell the students, you're teaching me. I'm learning from my students. I'm learning from all of you posting questions. So I'm a student as I'm teaching, and I just happen to get paid to teach, but I'd be studying anyway and teaching anyway. So it's do you understand? Like even with these video, with these video blogs, I'm putting them up. It's just I'm putting them up. And what's exciting is that whatever you want to do, you're going to spend your time on it anyway. Am I making sense? So you'll get better at it, and you don't have to beat yourself up to think, I wonder if I should be doing it, because you're already doing it. Many times you're already doing it. So if you like studying self-help, psychology, sociology, environmentalism, all these kinds of, I like studying various subjects. I'll be doing this anyway, critical thinking, all these other subjects, a whole variety of subjects I love learning. The basis is learning. Then what happens is there's a reason you have a passion to constantly learn. Okay? You're constantly learning about these things. Whatever you're interested in, you notice. If you're not interested in something, you don't notice it. Now, there are people that will come along on your path to say, have you thought about this? They'll show up at a particular time, and then somebody will open up some other doorway that you didn't even know they were supposed to. They've come along by soul agreement to help you to unlock a particular path to have you explore at precisely the right time, okay? For you, for your soul's development, they'll come in at a particular time to help you to get to the next stage of where you're going. So what's very important, and I can give you some links, there's a guy named Robert Schwartz, and he has your soul's gifts, your soul's plan. I met him at one of those psychic conferences last year. This guy's amazing, all right? A real humble guy, real cool. So, you can go through hypnosis, you can do between life regression, and obviously consult with a professional outside of this, to see if that's right for you. But he believes, and he's talked to psychic mediums and channelers and all these other things, other people, that you plan a lot of your major challenges, okay? And his books are great. So and you've chosen certain life trajectories at this level. So it's like a spiritual play in the physical world, in this life right now that's coming about. So once you start thinking about your life as, it's beyond my filling out a worksheet or taking a career assessment test and thinking, what's my life about that way? I mean, that's helpful. It can give you clues. But once you realize your life purpose is far more than your thought about what you think it is, and that it's a spiritual realization, then you're like, wow, how am I bringing more of my spiritual self into the world to benefit myself or others? It totally changes the game. And one of the stories I'll talk about in another clip about as far as past lives go, you might have heard about the little kid that they have a book, it's called Soul Flight. His family put it out. And he was a reincarnation of a World War II pilot. He was able to name the people on the ship, even the sister that's still living, of the pilot, recognized that this kid, born like just in this past decade, is the reincarnation. It's her brother. And he was able to name the boat. He was able to say where the plane was shot down. He explained how he died. And he even explained, now this will give you goosebumps. He explained, if you read some of the articles on this, that he picked his parents. All right? You know how they say, you'll read sometimes that you've picked your parents, you've gone through certain challenges? This soul picked the parents. He says, I saw you both in Hawaii, and he said, I saw that you were going there. And so 5 weeks before he was conceived, the soul picked the body. Is that not incredible? So he said, and then he goes a step farther. He says, my life's purpose, this will give you goosebumps. He says, is to let you know that this exists, that reincarnation is possible. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So let's just recap. A World War II pilot gets shot down in the Pacific Theater. All right, explains where he died, explains which ship he was on, and then he reincarnates as a U.S. soldier. He reincarnates as now he's 4 years old. He's having, and he, by the way, he's drawing pictures of planes crashing into oceans. I don't know about you, but if I had a little kid that was, because they say before the age of 5, a lot of the past life memories are strong. If you had pictures of people or little kids, I mean, he's creating pictures of, or she's creating pictures of planes going into water, whoever it is, then you got to ask yourself, wow, why is the kid doing this? And what was interesting is once the kid was able to take his family to that area of the Pacific and where the plane was, had crashed, they put flowers, or they had a closing ritual, as they called it. What happened is they honored the death, the recognition of the death in that case, in that lifetime. It closed an energy loop or spiritual loop for that life. It was done. And guess what happened? His pictures went back to like stick figures and flowers and sunlight. So it's amazing. So if you look at life purpose as a soul's kind of purpose, then it's really hard at a mental level to get the answers. You start, because that's what I was doing for many years. I was saying, well, let me think myself into my career or whatever it is. And you know what it is? You're going to be led where you're going to be led. You're going to have opportunities that open up for you, even beyond your thinking. That's a big one. Because, the law of attraction says put it out there and it'll come back. That's great. But we're also assuming that your limited perspective is figuring it all out, right? We're assuming that your thinking is creating everything. While I do believe that your thinking helps to create your world, there's certain soul contracts that you've made ahead, and certain things are going to happen in your life that, wow, I didn't know that this person would show up at this time with this opportunity, and I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't even thought about that, but let me consider it. And then what will happen is your soul will say yes. Even while you're trying to figure it out at the mental level, your soul will say yes. And you'll immediately have a yearning, a joyful yearning. This is why, if you've ever had a situation where some people have asked you questions like, do you want to go here or do you want to go here? You're like, I don't really want to go to either place, right? There's no attraction. But then if somebody says you want to do this, it's a sudden yes. There's a sudden feeling of like a deeper vibration or connection. And so what it is you're making choices. But if you were only making choices at a mental level, based on what you learned, this is what I want or don't want, you're not going to get that deeper energy. Where's the energy coming from? Where's the energy with the connection saying, this is where I want to go? There's a deeper yes. It's almost real quick. And so then if you start realizing, okay, so there's a connection there, a deeper connection, and I can realize it by having this experience, then you start feeling like you're living in purpose. And my hypnotherapist told me something really interesting earlier. She said, and we were talking about this, that right at the moment you need to be somewhere, when you have that feeling, right, of you're right there, the synchronicities, right? And Carl Jung talks about this. That's part of your plan. So when you have the synchronicities, that the right people show up at exactly the right time, it's more than the law of attraction, because that happens for you, for your soul development, even beyond your thinking. So it's so powerful. It's a step above or a step beyond the law of attraction. So what I would say to everyone, and we'll have more video clips on this, is that if you feel lost as far as what it is that you have to pick a major and then you're going to change your major 10 times or something in college, or you might quit school like I did initially. I quit after graduate school. I quit 1 year. I took a year off actually, and then I became a teacher. I started traveling again and I taught English. I knew at that time I wasn't going to find the answer in school at that particular stage of my life. And I didn't even know what I was really looking for, but I just knew that wasn't it. And now I'm a university instructor. So I'm just saying, but wait a minute, there's a way that happened. What I learned is you have to honor your soul. So it's not about checking a box or, oh, I'm going to do this. Hey now, be nice. Come on, be nice. How can we talk about soul expression if you're barking at the other dog? No? All right. So the point is you want to. I mean, not to tell you what to do or what you have to do or not to do, but you got to trust yourself as far as your soul's unfoldment. Understand that it's all going to get you to somewhere, no matter what's happened in your life. That if you have this kind of long-term perspective, over time it'll unfold, and you'll kind of see, oh, that's why I've gone through this. That's why I went through this. That's why I made that mistake. And you can you can reframe your mistakes. You can see, oh, I'm so grateful for all these people that have taught me things along the way. Or I see now that, wow, they helped me along here. Or, I've actually written letters to people that have helped me along my path. It's just amazing. You start appreciating, wow, they came along at this time, and you start looking back and you start saying, wow, they've helped me at this point, or they gave me this insight, or they did that. And if you think about it, we learn from everyone, and anything, every experience we learn from what we're going through, and then yet there's something far greater for you. And so open up to your spirit as far as your life's purpose. Now, if you're atheist or agnostic or anything, then if you want to say your higher self, or you want to just go within and believe in intuition, whatever works for you. I'm not trying to tell you what to think or what to do. However, I will tell you that there's more beyond the mental. Okay? And I will explain some of the psychic experiences that I've had, seeing things in other people and past lives, seeing other people's past lives. I've had remote viewing experiences, traveling through the mind, seeing things happen before they do, and everyone's had these. Everyone's had some form of these things. So then, if you start realizing, okay, there's more than just what's on the surface at the mental realm, what's so hard to believe that there's a spiritual aspect of yourself that can guide your life's purpose in this world? You see? And so that, it's just so freeing. It's so liberating. It feels so good because I don't feel like I have to get anywhere, go anywhere. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm lazy. I'm just saying I don't feel like that if it's soul expansion, you just go along for the ride. You're just expanding your soul, and you're going along with these new experiences, these new adventures, to learn a new part of yourself, to learn from others, to teach them things. And then you don't ever worry about this. You don't have to play this mental ping pong with what's my life purpose constantly, Now, that could be more difficult if you're in the throes of college and you're saying, well, what's my major? The question, sometimes some of the things aren't offered in your school. Sometimes I've seen, I've had students that have come up with these revolutionary ideas. I put one in touch with another student who's a reporter, who writes really cool articles. This kid and this is an intro to psych class. This kid has some cutting edge ideas on schizophrenia. So I saw his research question. He still had to polish it. And so I gave him some suggestions. You might want to, refine this, operationalize this, and, change some things to his research question. But this kid has a burning life's purpose at this moment to research something that is a little bit beyond our class. So I'm helping him, but I put him in touch with the reporter, and then that reporter will help flush out the ideas. And I told the reporter, you might want to look at a couple of things and help him along. But what's so exciting about this is this kid's not waiting for the class to define what he's going to do. I love it because that's what I love. I love it when, what would you do anyway if you weren't in school? What would you do anyway if you didn't even have the class on it and you were, what are you reading in your free time? What are you doing in your free time? What are you doing on the weekends? What are you doing? Who do you listen to on the radio, or what do you watch on TV? What do you naturally notice? It's a big one. What are you paying attention to? And that's maybe your soul helping you to realize, hey, you might want to look at this. You might want to pay attention to that. I don't think it's an accident that you're watching this clip and trying to learn more about this. And it's so exciting because for example, I can't get enough of this. Talking about life, meaning, soul growth, all these other subjects we're talking about. You know what I mean? And so then that's what you need to be doing. You do what you feel you are, right? The be, do, have model. It is, again, if you define yourself only by one role and you don't allow yourself to grow, change, and expand, then what happens is if you're not doing that role, then what? You know what I mean? If I say for 30 years I taught and then didn't teach, then who am I? You know what I mean? I love teaching, Is it one of my roles? Absolutely. However, would I say that if I ever were to stop teaching, if I were, and even when I retire, I'm not going to stop teaching. But what if I do I define myself by one role, or do I have other roles? Could you be a dog lover? Could you be a parent? Could you be somebody else? So the thing is, you have all different purposes at different times based on your soul's growth, your awareness, and what you want to do at that time. So I know that I said a lot here, and if it helps to replay it, it may be a good idea to replay it. But just understand that underneath your life's purpose, there's a soul expansion happening. And it happens in different roles. It can happen in different ways, not necessarily on a test, not necessarily with a guidance counselor, career counselor. Um, you may or may not know your purpose at a particular time. You might be going through certain life experiences, and then you surrender to the opening of your soul in the next step, in the next phase of your life. And just understand that it's all perfect. Then you don't have to beat yourself up. Because what kind of energy are you bringing to it if you stress yourself out constantly? Am I on the right track or am I not? You're beating yourself up. Oh, I'm off purpose. Or if you're off purpose, then what do you need to do to get on purpose? And why do you think you're off purpose? And then even just that awareness that, oh, okay, let me try to open up my soul here. Let me see where my joy is taking me. Let me learn from my mistakes that I made, because I made a ton of mistakes. How can I learn from my mistakes? What would I not do again? What would I do more of? And you start kind of shifting a little bit. And then that could totally radically shift. Somebody might become a parent when they thought they were never going to become a parent, and that sets them on a whole other path. And so it's just something to think about, that there's no simple answer to your life's purpose, that it's not going to be on a little checklist, and that there's that soul growth, that soul expansion, and the awareness that you can vary it up. You can vary it up over time, and you'll have different people, different experiences, and different situations at just the right time. You'll see. It'll pop up, people will come in, and then you couldn't even have thought about it. You didn't even think about it. So they came there, and there it is, and then they get you to another level. They help you to realize something, and that insight is exactly when you need it and where you need it. So once you realize that, wow, all is well, so I don't have to worry about it, then you open up to your soul's purpose, your soul's expression, you realize it, you open to it, and you start playing it out across a variety of roles, and you just are in peace with that. Okay, so hopefully those things help. I know it's quite my dog. I'm surprised that because they're forced to listen to all this stuff. So I'm glad in a way that this dog was able to, my beautiful baby Xena, was able to listen to the lesson. Can you smile and say hi to everybody? Come on. All right. Well, I hope that helped. And then this is baby Sadie. Sadie, you want to give a kiss? All right. So, okay. Well, thank you. All right. So I hope you guys have a great night, and I hope to talk to you again soon.